So picture this, Philadelphia 2008. My friend and I are standing on a lawn with 5,000 people packed shoulder to shoulder to see Barack Obama. I can smell everything: cologne, sweat, grass. My back is pressed against someone's front and we're tightly wedged together. You couldn't turn 360 degrees if you tried. And suddenly panic sets in. What if something bad happens? What if I need to get out? What if I can't breathe? Now, I don't consider myself claustrophobic, but I also know that feeling when you're in a packed elevator, the doors start to close, and you're thinking, please don't let someone else get in here. This thing have like a weight limit? That's claustrophobia, the intense, irrational fear of enclosed or confined spaces. It triggers rapid heartbeat, sweating, difficulty breathing. It's that overwhelming sense of being trapped with no way out, that suffocating fear of not being able to escape or catch your breath. And sometimes the spiritual journey feels exactly like this: trapped, compressed, unable to escape. But what if I told you that compression isn't your enemy? It's your transformation chamber. Let me introduce you to Roman, an Olympic Games maintenance worker who discovered something extraordinary about himself in the most unlikely pace: an air conditioning unit. Roman was called to fix a malfunctioning AC system during the games. As he assessed the problem, he realized the only way to reach it was to crawl deep into the ventilation shaft, a space so tight that most people would panic at the thought. But Roman didn't panic. Instead, he discovered something remarkable. His body had the unusual ability to compress, to fold, to fit into the impossibly small space. Watch as he folds his entire body into a glass box barely 2 feet across. Every bone, every muscle compressing into a space that defies logic. What looks impossible is simply a matter of flexibility, pressure, and surrender to the process. Roman discovered that compression wasn't the enemy. It revealed his capacity. And that's our key verse today. 1 Corinthians 3:12-15. If anyone builds on this foundation using gold, silver, costly stones, wood, hay, or straw, their work will be shown for what it is, because the day will bring it to light. It will be revealed, fire, and that fire will test the quality of each person's work. Paul identifies 6 building materials: 3 that survive fire, 3 that don't. Gold, refined by fire, purified by heat. Silver, tested and proven through fire. Costly stones, diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, pennite, formed by fire and pressure. Wood burns at 572 degrees Fahrenheit. Hay burns instantly, no substance. Straw, the lightest, most temporary material. Here Paul questions to every believer: what are you building your life with? Now here's what's fascinating. Paul wasn't just being poetic, he was being scientific. Gold melts at 1,947 degrees Fahrenheit but doesn't burn, it purifies. Silver melts at 1,761 degrees Fahrenheit but doesn't burn, impurities separate. Diamonds withstand up to 1,400 degrees Fahrenheit before transforming. Precious stones like rubies, sapphires were formed in fire. They can withstand 1,800 to 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit because fire is where they came from. But wood, it burns at 525 degrees Fahrenheit. Hay ignites instantly. Straw, gone in seconds. Paul is telling us, build your life with materials that were formed in fire, because fire is coming. Now let's get molecular for a moment. Our bodies are made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen. The very carbon in our cells is the same element found in dirt, in dust, in the ground. Genesis 2:7 says, the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground. Genesis 3:19 says, for dust you are and dust you will return. If we compress ourselves down to our most basic molecular form, we would literally become dust, about 40 pounds of elemental carbon. But here's the revelation: the same carbon that dust, organic matter, has the potential to become the most precious and powerful substance on earth. Gold, under the right conditions, gold is worth $65,000 per kilogram. Diamonds, $40,000 per carat. Carbon compressed 90 miles deep under billions of years. Pearls worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, formed with irritation, coated with grace over the years. Painite worth $60,000 per carat, one of Earth's rarest gems. Crude oil, worth trillions globally, created from organic matter compressed under the heat and 10 to 100 million years. The value doesn't come from the original substance. It's all started as dust. The value comes from the time it took, the pressure it endured, the heat it survived, the process it went through. Paul is saying you are of supreme value, not because of what has you started, but because what was necessary to form you. Today we're going to discover divine processes, time, pressure, irritation, and fire that transform dust into gold, silver, and costly stones. 1 Peter 1, 6 through 7 says, "In all this you are greatly rejoiced, and now for a little while you may have to suffer grief and all kinds of trials. These have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith is of greater worth than gold, which perishes even through refined fire, may result in praise, glory, honor when Jesus Christ is revealed." Formed in a supernova, dying stars billions of years ago, refined at 1947 degrees Fahrenheit to remove impurities. Gold doesn't corrode, tarnish, or decay. It endures through time. Ancient refiners knew it. It was pure when they could see their reflection in it. God uses time to refine faith like gold. The refiners don't rush. He keeps the heat steady. He watches. He waits. And when the impurities rise to the surface and are skimmed away, when he can finally see his reflection in the molten gold, he knows it's ready. Malachi 3:3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and a purifier of silver. He will purify the Levites and refine them like gold and silver." Job 23:10 says, "But he knows the way I take, and when he's tested me, I will come forth as gold." The principle, time plus fire, reflection, just like compound interest multiplies money over decades. God uses time to multiply the value of his faithfulness. Small daily prayers compound into intimacy with God. Consistent obedience builds unshakable character. Years of faithfulness create a legacy that outlasts your lifetime. Think about it financially. Invest $200 starting at 25 years old, 7% annual return. By 65, you have $525,000. It's time, consistency, and patience. You are building with gold, tested by time, refined by fire, proven to reflect the glory of God. Pressure. Natural diamonds are formed deep within the Earth's mantle, 90 to 120 miles beneath the surface, under immense condition. Pure carbon compressed under 725,000 pounds per square inch. Temperature 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Time 1 to 3 billion years. Hardness 10 on the mole scale, the highest natural substance on Earth. Value at $3,000 to $40,000 per carat. Exceptional stones worth over $1 million per carat. Here's the truth. Coal and diamonds are made of the same element, carbon. The difference isn't what they're made of. The difference is what they went through. We glory in our suffering because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. That's Romans 5, 3 through 4. God uses pressure not to crush you, but to crystallize your potential. Two people can start with the same raw material, the same background, the same opportunities, the same struggles. The difference is what they endure and how they respond. Pressure doesn't change your identity. It reveals your capacity. Real life pressure test. A Navy SEAL's Hell Week. 130 hours of continuous training, maximum 4 hours of sleep total per night, 200 plus miles of running, freezing ocean water, obstacle courses, sleep deprivation, attrition rate 75 to 80% quit. The perfect purpose, not to break them, but to reveal who can operate under crushing pressure when everything in them screams to quit. Those who survive don't just become SEALs, they become men who know they can endure anything. The pressure they didn't know created abilities in them that crystallized what they already were. Now, an ode to the shirt that I'm wearing today, we're going to talk a little bit about pearls, okay? So in Matthew 13, 45 through 46, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant who was looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and he bought it. A grain of sand or a parasite enters an oyster. Instead of rejecting it, the oyster secretes nacre, mother of pearl, to coat the irritant, layer upon layer over 2 to 5 years. Value 1,000 to 100,000 plus. Not every trial is catastrophic. Some of God's most beautiful work happens through small, persistent discomfort and how we choose to respond. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. When I am weak, you are strong. Irritation plus grace equals iridescence. A pearl is proof that persistent pain met with persistent faithfulness becomes something luminous. So this is my favorite at all. When I was looking up like what is the rarest, most costly stone, it's painite. Isaiah 48:10 says, see, I have refined you not through silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. Formed 90 plus miles deep in the earth's mantle, requires boron, zirconium, two elements that almost never occur together in nature. Extreme heat, crushing pressure over millions of years. Once only 25 known specimens exist. Now a few thousand, but still one of the earth's rarest gems. Value $50,000 to $60,000 per carat. Some believers go through contradictions, circumstances that should not exist. Pain and purpose, loss and leadership, brokenness and breakthrough, suffering and success. God uses these impossible combinations of life's elements to create something the world has never seen. The crucible for silver and the furnace of gold, but the Lord tested the heart. Proverbs 17:3. The principle, impossibility plus fire equals unrepeatable rarity. God shines on the surface. Silver reflects in light. Diamonds sparkle under pressure. Pearls grow softly. Painite radiates from within, born from impossible conditions. Paul is telling us you're not just being tested, you're being adorned. When the journey ends, when you've endured the time, survived the pressure, responded to the irritation with grace, and been refined by fire, you will be dressed in what survived the fire. Gold. Revelation 4:4 says, around the throne were 24 elders and they had crowns of gold on their head. Costly stones. Exodus 28:17-20 says the high priest breastplate held 12 precious stones: sardius, topaz, emerald, sapphires, diamonds, jacinth, agate, amethyst, beryl, onyx, jasper. Pearls. Revelations 21:21 says the 12 gates were 12 pearls, each gate made of a single pearl. Pure gold. Revelation 21:18 says the city of pure gold, as pure as transparent glass. Oil. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Psalms 23:5. The figure standing before the throne, crowned with gold, refined over the decades until God's reflection can be seen, adorned with diamonds, formed 90 miles deep under the crushing pressure over billions of years. So hard nothing can scratch them, wearing strands of pearls, each one coated with grace over the years of irritation. Set in the crown, painite, the rarest gem on earth, born from impossible contradictions, anointed with oil that took millions of years of organic matter compressed deep underground, and the person shines, not with reflected light, but with the light from within, hard like a diamond, unbreakable because of what was required to form them, radiant like gold, purified because fire burned away everything that wasn't eternal, lustrous like pearls, glowing softly because irritation was met with grace, rare like painite, unrepeatable because their process was custom designed by the Creator. You are handmade by the Creator. The value of a gem is determined by what it took to create it. A diamond is worth $40,000 per carat because it endured 725,000 pounds of pressure for a billion years. Painite is worth that because of the conditions that were almost impossible to replicate. Oil is worth trillions because it takes millions of years of precise conditions, and you are worth more than all of them combined. Not because of what you started as, which was dust, but because of what you endured to become who you are now. Mass-produced items are cheap. Lab-grown diamonds cost a fraction. Synthetic materials can be manufactured, but you cannot be replicated. You are handmade, every trowel custom selected, every pressure point precisely calibrated, every irritation divinely allowed, every fire personally supervised. God didn't use you in a factory. He used a furnace. He didn't use a machine. He used his hands. Bestow on them the crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil instead of mourning, and the garment of praise instead of the spirit of despair. If you're feeling claustrophobic today, compressed, buried under pressure, don't run from the process. You are not being destroyed. You are being refined. The compression you feel is the transformation chamber. Crowned, anointed, adorned, shining, handmade by the Creator, worth everything it took to make you.
Well, Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that. Huh? There's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that very thoughtful presentation. Very thoughtful presentation. I'd like to start off with the switch that if a human being is going through a lot of pain, a lot of trials, maybe even temptations, maybe even situations of why me, right?
Yeah.
Irritation, agitation, maybe even being confounded.
Yeah.
Okay, feeling trapped or in the trap. You said that it's the chamber of transformation.
I remember recently, you get caught up in these YouTube videos and you end up watching this long thing, and you were watching a video where this guy was making like a gold chain.
Yeah.
And then he melted and he was beating it and and then he would cool it and then he would beat it. And I kept thinking about that, like that blacksmith kind of moment where they're melting this thing down, but they're not just melting it to shape it. They're melting to get rid of the impurities. So when I think about what I think one of the things that's easy to look at gold, which is an element that I didn't know came from the stars because it is an element. And then when I think about something like the painite, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, or a diamond, that actually is carbon compressed, right? So like literally it's what we consider dirt, and it is compressed into such a tight space that the molecules kind of like crystallize upon themselves. It's heated and compressed and heated under miles of pressure in order to create. So that rarity becomes so valuable. Now that becomes valuable because that's rare. And what did it take not only to create over so much time, but also for anybody to even reach that, to get it?
Okay, according to Grok, 93% of our body's mass is stardust, carbon, nitrogen, oxide, iron, forged in ancient supernova.
Yeah, because it's an element.
It's an element. So it's very interesting when you said basically the experience that a diamond goes through, or any of the precious metals here on the earth, right?
Gems.
There's going to be a time where it became from an atom, made a crystalline structure, came into the earth in some way, and then was just basically forged through all the elements
and the environment
from thousands, if not millions of years for certain substances.
Yeah.
And then the man or the woman is going through the cave, they dig in this tunnel and they see this.
But I think it also, so that's why I say the claustrophobia, because most of the time we do not want to be compressed in these confined situations. We don't want to feel like we cannot get out. But in that compression and that time over tension, right? In that pressure, in that pushing, that's what's creating this rarity, this beauty thing.
It's very interesting. I always think of the coal miners who in West Virginia, they go and get the coal for the energy, and they go into like
deep
into the earth, into crevices that are like very dangerous, life-threatening, but the resource that they extract is so valuable here to earth, and everybody else
it's worth their lives.
Wow.
It's worth their lives.
Wow.
So I mean we don't value a human being and say per carat, or what I mean, but isn't that what we are? What we are. When I was starting it, I was so morbid about it because I thought, like what happens when people's bodies get burned and cremated, and what's left like in that urn or whatever. And I was really thinking like, okay, like, well, if we are carbon, because that is the definition of what makes something a living creature that contains carbon. So if we are that and we were reduced to nothing, we would become these gems. We would become, over time.
That's the thing of quote unquote life trials.
Yes.
Right? It does, if you've gone through one, raise your hand, okay? But when you go through these life trials, it really does feel like a pressure that's on you. Like you have to still provide, protect, and produce, and not necessarily be capitulated by whatever situation that you're in. Right. So when you said the transformation chamber, that just was like, oh,
yeah.
It's kind of like Daniel in the fires, in the fires, in the lions, but in the pit of fire.
Yes, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Right. If that's a true story.
Yeah, they came out unburned. So like it's not even that you do get burned though. You know what I'm saying? It's not like you're not getting burned, but what's happening is like as you're burning, the things are coming off of you and you're getting closer and closer to this beautiful thing. Right. So it's not like, oh, it's going to be a great process and you're going to, like turn into this thing. You know what I mean? It's not, you're not going to feel like you're getting burned. You'll feel like you're compressed. You'll feel like you're in a claustrophobic situation.
I see like humans have outbursts when they get angry, right? Like, I mean, to me, that's not good in that moment, but you know, I do understand like the pressure, like you
They're
were
like,
saying,
that's enough.
the sonder that people are going through,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but for those who are able to keep with the pressure,
Yeah.
right? Like,
And not break. Yeah.
Right?
Not be consumed, right? So I also like the reference when it was talking about, you know, what does it take to burn hay or burn wood? I mean, it's consumed.
Right.
You know, it's not like there's anything really left after that is done. So if you think about it from the perspective of what happens to either the carbon molecule or the gold or whatever, it's not consumed.
No.
You know, like.
But it went through a lot.
But what the value is what was necessary to do that.
You know, that's why.
And what it could endure.
Obviously, the diamond had to be irritated. The gold had to be irritated. But then it gets its moment through all the earth elements, and then to be in the blacksmith's arena. And
see, but doesn't that speak metaphorically also to what happens to us? Because most of our battles are so quiet and like really internal.
Just like a diamond.
You know, so when you're on the earth under and you're going through, it's not necessarily like everybody knows or everybody sees like what you're going through really inside. I don't think they really can be you to know that, right? But when you have that moment, you get discovered for your value. You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Now it's public. Now, everybody's, you're so pretty, you're so nice, you're so this and that. But when you were in the secret place getting burned at 19,000 degrees, you know, it might not have felt like there was ever going to be a moment where you were going to be like valuable.
Of course. And you know, it's interesting now with YouTube, you get to really get at least some kind of glimpse into a Navy SEAL training or all the individuals who attempt to go through Hell Week and they like 90% don't survive.
Don't make it.
And then the men, and I believe women that are actually Navy SEALs actually went through that.
Then when you see a Navy SEAL, you're going to be like, wow. You know, like if you understood what it takes to get into that position, to call yourself that, then you're going to say, wow, look at what I'm looking at. I'm looking at somebody who went through that and made it.
That's why in real life, you know, you really do get your stripes.
Yeah.
Because people have gone through a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. And you just don't know.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Yeah. Some people, they break at such small things. I mean, it's not fair. And some people endure tremendous amount of trauma and they come out like, I'm going to tell the world and I'm going to be a testimony. Do you understand? And other people, you know, terrible things, not to say that any one terrible thing is worse than the other, but I mean, you hear these stories of things that people witnessed or endured, and then they come out still smiling and talking and living another day.
Well, that's that phrase you said, the irrational plus the grace will give you this incandescent glow.
Irritation.
Plus irritation?
Yes,
Sorry.
yes.
Will give you that incandescent glow. And you know, I've seen people, men and women, like, and you don't necessarily need to know their whole story, but there is something that about them that is like kind of awe-y in a sense. Like you kind of see that they went through something very traumatic, but the way that they're able to compose themselves right now in the situation is like...
I mean, even there, still, you encounter people all the time, and you see them, and then you hear their story, and you're like, wow, you are smiling?
Right.
That happened to you, and you're walking around this world like everything's okay. Do you know? And you went through that, and they did. And they did. And, I mean, I can imagine you have a different perspective and appreciation for that person having known something more about their story.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's that whole thing that you said about, the impossibility of situations, irritations, agitations is the fire of the life. But that makes you like the unrepeatable original.
I love that so much because I feel like it's like I couldn't think of like some serendipitous, I have to use that word, some like happy circumstances, stories of like things that like people just happen to meet a person.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like this very unique scenario where things come together in the right way at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's like, how the heck did that happen? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I couldn't find like a story like that, but basically that is what I was thinking about, that like most valuable thing is because it's like the most two rare elements that basically will never be together.
Right.
And they come together under enormous pressure. And under enormous heat and fire, molten lava, and under great depths to become this rare scenario.
Well, this is why I do appreciate the Bible as a main text, as a holy text, because the characters in this book, they're going through some things.
But like you said, we put the spotlight on them, so I don't know if God asked for volunteers like you're about to be a role model.
We're gonna put your life story in this
like,
one.
By the way, this is why I'm doing all of this to you, because we're going to write a book and your name is going to be in it.
Joseph, Yeshua, Joshua, Moses, Abraham. Like, those stories are just kind of like, oh my gosh. That happened, right? But I also do, I'll say this last thing that I'll say is that, for those who don't crack, I do understand why people crack.
I know. What I mean? I do. All sympathy to
You're
doing the best you can.
You're doing the best you can. But as you were saying, like, you're going to be this original one, right? But there was a time where, like, you are literally being led in grace, by grace. And the fire is not like that consuming to those individuals. That's why you retain the glow.
Exactly. That somehow, I don't know, maybe it's like you realize what you're going through while you're going through it. I don't know. Maybe if you don't realize you're going through something and you think it's for no good reason, like, why am I going through this? Like, what's the point?
Right.
Versus saying, I'm going through something because something is happening right now.
Right.
Like, this is not just random events. Like, this is actually, like, I like this handmade idea, because you know how valuable things that are handmade too, because it means not a machine made it, somebody put their hands on it and they did. So it's like, if you're thinking that the creator is hand making this situation to produce this result, to produce this gem, to produce this diamond that it can cut other things, do you know what I mean? If you think that, then maybe that realization in and of itself makes it the process. If you don't have that realization, you might just go through it and be like, that was no lesson learned. I didn't get anything out of that situation.
Now the chamber of transformation, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You're just going out there, dealing with this irritant, this agitation, this claustrophobia, pain in the ass, right? And then you're just saying, you know what? From this,
I'm in a process.
You're in a process.
And it is, and I forgot to mention that, it is alchemy. That is the definition of alchemy, to take something that is worthless.
Very true.
And make it into something valuable.
Very
to
true.
Take something that literally is carbon and turn it into a diamond or to gold. Is it an alchemist to gold?
Yeah.
I read the book The Alchemist once. But you know what I mean? So it is the transformation of turning something with no value into something of value.
Yeah, because these situations are literally changing the chemistry of your mind and your makeup, and then therefore your behavior.
Yeah.
So, very good. Beloved Seekers, as the sacred gathering draws to a close, retreat now into your secret place, the inner chambers where the Most High awaits in stillness. And you can reference Matthew 6, verse 6. In a moment of holy silence, lay your petitions at the throne of grace. Yet know that before a word comes from your tongue, the answer is already ordained, sealed in divine foresight. Breathe in the assurance that the Most High has spoken yes to every promise that aligns with your soul's eternal blueprint. Receive it now, the peace that surpasses understanding, provisions already en route, purpose already unveiled. Go forth carrying the living word within. The waters have moved, the wind has whispered, light has dawned. In the matchless name of the Most High, we say, Ashe,
Amen.
Islam.
I was a nerd.